Have you ever seen your child do something really well when you're in the room, like when you're cheering them on, but as soon as you ask them to do it on their own when you're not around, it's like they forgot everything? Well, this can be a real challenge, especially when you're a busy parent and you're trying to get them to do it on their own. Well, I'm about to show you in this video how you can get them to start doing something on their own when you ask them to. Remember that this is video 14 in a series of 16 videos altogether. So if you really want to make some significant changes, I recommend going back and watching all of the videos in order. But if you're too busy and you just want to watch this video right now, you're going to walk away with some tips and tricks to use. So grab a note paper or take some notes on your phone or get the guidebook from kidsmoveandlearn.com. That way you can take what ideas you get from here in this video and make it applicable to what you're going to do with your child. So you've all heard the story of a kid who knows all the answers to a test, but then as soon as they're given it, they flunk it. Like they forgot everything, right? Or they somehow answer all the questions wrong. Or maybe the story of a 16-year-old who can drive perfectly fine when they're in a parking lot, but then as soon as they're like on the roads or they have to go take the test, they forget everything. It's kind of the same thing with kids, the way that they're learning a skill, and especially if they haven't had a lot of practice in using it in different kinds of situations. You know, the 4-year-old who can use the potty at home, but then have accidents at school, or vice versa. Or maybe the 5-year-old who knows how to take turns in sharing toys with their siblings, but can't do it with their friends, or vice versa. What do you think all of these have in common? The child has likely stressed out or they couldn't apply what they've learned into a new context, into a new situation. So what you have to imagine is that it takes baby steps to take a skill from a very basic situation and start applying it into more complex situations. So for example, a child who's maybe sharing toys with one other child is limited in the amount of sharing, but then all of a sudden when they have to go to school and they have to share it with 10 kids, it can be a whole different situation. Or in the other way, they could be at school sharing it with 10 kids, but they've got the adults that have been supporting them in a way the teachers do, and then they come home and they don't want to share with their sibling because it's their toys rather than the actual classroom toys that belong to them. So they have to reframe that kind of learning into a new context, into a new situation. As parents, I get it that we're always trying to get them to do things that you know that they can do, and it takes work and practice for them to do it in these tougher times, as well as doing it in calm, playful times. So the first thing to remember, as I explained in greater detail in a previous video, is that it's really important to give the children time to learn a skill in a playful setting and practice that new skill in playful situations. Because as you teach it and as they get consistently more and more practice with key phrases or visuals or hands-on support from the adult, then they're going to be able to take that next step and get to use those skills into some of the rougher times. It helps them bridge their learning to apply this into a new context, into a new situation. Because even if they were able to do it independently in one situation, they might need some more support to help them do it in the new situation. Maybe they just need more adult support, maybe they need more reminders until they can practice it and become successful in that new situation. So usually a great strategy that teachers do when they're teaching a skill is they use that I do approach. So I'm going to show you how it works. I'm going to model it using a toolbox of cues and phrases, and then they go ahead and model that skill for the child. So for example, let's say that you want them to sort toys when it's part of cleanup time. Then you would, as an adult, pick up a car and verbalize, this is a car. So this car goes in this box with other cars. So that's how you would use some key phrases and verbalize what your actions are to teach them, to show them how to do it. The next step is we do. When you've got the child's attention and you can start using the we do approach, then it means about doing it together. And at first it might look a little bit more like, I'll do these cars, you do those blocks. Or I'll do a car, you do a car. But then over time, you shift it so that it'll be a little bit less doing together and a little bit more of them doing it. So it's gradually a good idea to sort of mix it up, like mommy will clean for the count of 20, and then the child cleans for 20. And then eventually you shift it so that the mommy does less work. But before you shift it to them doing it independently, you also want to think of having a fun way to shift it like a stuffed animal. It's really fun to practice a skill without too much pressure on the child at first, and you can be silly and in that moment also. Let's say then your playtime and you have a bear and you want the bear to clean up, and you're gonna then this way teach them how cleanup works in the playtime. It's not actually cleanup time, but the bear needs to clean up because that's part of your pretend play. So you may say to the child, hey, we need to get the bear to clean up. So let's do 20 seconds where the bear cleans up and the mom can manipulate the bear's arms to clean up stuff. And then now it's your turn to clean up. So at this point, it's not really we do because it's not mommy and child cleaning up. Now it's mommy and bear cleaning up. So this takes it from that step where it's a we do into we do as playtime, but it's bear and child do. And then before you know it, the child will start manipulating the bear's arms. And then that way you can start shifting that practice in playful time into using the bear during the actual cleanup time later on. So those are just some ways that you can use the we do. Ultimately, you want the children to be completely independent, right? Like you want to be able to give them a direction and snap, it's done. That means that you have to do it one step at a time. Tackling one part is going to eventually lead you into putting all of those parts together. And after you've seen them successfully do it with you and you're pulling back a little bit, maybe they're trying it on their own or with the bear or some other kind of silly way, then you might still need a visual to help bridge them into doing it independently. But you no longer have to be involved in the actions. Like you may want to find a way to break it down into small chunks to reduce the amount of support so that they're doing it on their own, but it's at a pace that works for both of you. Here's an example. When everything's in place, such as the bear cleanup time, and the child is actually manipulating the arms fully and really doing all of the work, and you're really just watching at that point, then you are ready to start shifting into them doing it on their own. The next step would then be to keep using the bear and tell them that, you're going to walk away for a minute and then come back. And then when you come back, you praise how much the child and the bear cleaned up while you were gone. And then the next time you see how much they can do on their own when you walk away by giving them a prompt like, I can't wait to see how much of a surprise you're going to give me. And then before you know it, the child will start to clean up and all on their own when they hear you say it, because this routine becomes a habit. So the bear is really that visual for you, that hands-on for you and the child. That way the child finds it playful and fun and not as much of a chore. This was a really short video to give you some tips about how in teaching the skill in these rougher times can really take time and practice. And you have to really practice them in the fun, playful ways in order to start transitioning it into the tougher times. And the other piece that we really covered in this video is how important the strategy of doing I do, we do, and you do, and that approach to create steps for children to be successfully independent is so important. So the next steps I recommend after watching this video is to really make it meaningful for your situation. So review those strategies of I do, we do, and you do, and plan some ways that you're going to start using that with your child. Think about some visuals and some phrases that are going to be key for you. And don't forget to reflect on it all and to think about how well it works with the you do, because you want to make sure that you're really pacing it with a child. You kind of sometimes have to take those baby steps to really go far in it. And then don't forget, if you need the guidebook or some other resources, kidsmoveandlearn.com will have some more information as well as all the other videos. So don't forget to subscribe and come back and watch those videos. Bye.